I was exploring why my OCD gets so much worse when I'm like really stressed. And it was like, as we lose control ultimately of like our lives, like, because I get a lot when I'm on shoots or things like that. So when you're like losing control of your world and your life, like the OCD is kind of a way of gaining control, like in your own way, because you can control those things, but you can't control, like I certainly can't control, a lot of the things that happen in my work, especially.
Hi, I'm Liv Nunn, and this is the mess we're in, i.e., life. Because life is, in fact, one big mess that we are all trying to make sense of and navigate our way through. The universe itself is a vast expanse of unorganised chaos. Stars are exploding all over the place, which makes me feel a sense of ease. I want to enable conversations that allow us to all embrace our mess at every level, or at least feel open and comfortable talking about it. I hope you enjoy our ramblings. Hi, Emil.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Yeah, very well, thank you. Hi, EMIL NAVA. So you are, an absolutely heralded, prestigious. We first encountered each other, an amazing creative, an amazing visual video director, creative director. And we met many, many moons ago. I feel like it was probably 20, it might have been 2 decades ago, 20 odd years ago
Yeah,
now. In the music industry, when you were working with Jessie J,
right.
and you've since gone on. God,
Tinchy
you're back.
Strider, probably. It was
Oh my
probably,
gosh, Tinchy,
yeah,
yeah.
Tinchy was probably before Jesse. I mean, that was like the very beginning.
Wow, yeah,
And
even
actually, you know
maybe.
what? Was it even, I was like an assistant on all the Amy stuff.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
yeah, Ireland for me was still, even when I wasn't directing, when I was, just assisting. And yeah, it's been a long journey
A
that.
long journey, yeah. But I feel like we can get into this, but creativity, the more I'm having these conversations, like how creatives are aligned with, like, creativity can come from all sorts of mess and messy situations, and just like brains overloading with ideas that essentially you can just generate amazing things from creative mess. Tell me a little bit about your journey as a video director in that world, because you have worked with some amazing, amazing names. It's been like, yeah, well, from those early days of Jessie J, but Calvin Harris and Rihanna and Ed Sheeran and Pharrell and Ellie Goulding. And what was your creative process like back in the day? How's that
Yeah.
developed over time?
It's changed a lot, actually. I actually started, writing this book recently just to kind of like get down, I guess, just some thoughts around. I got sober, 8 or 9 years ago, and it was a big turning point for me. And I think that until then, I was like a mess. I was wild. I don't even know who I was. Like, when I think back to that person, I don't know who I was. But there was always been a part of me that somehow believes that there was like magic in that, like madness and like,
Magic in
yeah,
the mess. Well, totally, because you say it's so interesting when I broach this with people, because you just said it then, like, I saw myself as a mess, and and so did I. Like, but during my music industry heyday, we could easily have mess has got such negative connotations with it, but actually, when you flip it and walk through some of the stuff and incredible, like, yeah, creative generation that comes from those messy times, or our messy minds as we've described ourselves, like, yeah, there is so much magic in the mess.
I even remember Amy saying, that she wrote that album like Back to Black, because she was you know, in such a bad way about her ex. And you hear
Mm.
that kind of all the time about artists creating these albums or these moments based on like heartbreak or
Yeah.
pain or trouble. And yeah, there was definitely an element for me, at least, that when I was at, I guess call it my biggest or whatever. Like when there was like I'd just moved to LA and I was winning like the VMAs and it was all just so like full on.
Yeah.
It was like I was also kind of just banging out ideas and making stuff and booking jobs and it yeah, there was an element that it was a mess and it was wild, but like at the same time, it was what was creating also kind of magic. And my therapist told me that like I have a I what did she say? That I kind of romanticize like my wildness, and she was saying to me like I think that you still would have had success if you weren't like so wild, which is maybe true, but I think there was also an element that like I was a mess and I was wild, but
Yeah.
I always wonder whether it contributed or took away or what would have been different. But I guess
Yeah, I think that there is the essence of so many amazing creatives that the magic spark does come from whatever we want to say, messiness, wildness, like just that. I do think there's so much beauty. And if you think about like Freddie Mercury, if you think about absolute iconic music like Amy herself, like yeah, there is just, and it's brutal because there is a sadness to it as well that some of these, incredible creatives might have been like tainted or like have this darkness to them, but from that like pain and stuff has come some of the most incredible art. Like it's definitely a fact, isn't it?
yeah, I think it's such a fact, because if you think about like it's, I guess it's just the pain and the emotion and the emotion that comes out through that. I think is so not more powerful, but like yeah, I mean, there's just so much power to it because it hurts, and
Yeah, totally. So
you know,
how do you harness it? Or like over time? And have you had people? Obviously, when you're a video director, you've got a massive team around you, and you have like your agents, and you've got producers, and you've got people that help like harness that power, and then put it all together for the final output. Right? What have you had around you that's enabled you to like harness that fuel?
great question. I think that I joke that like back when I was really wild, it was like I just had to kind of be pointed in the right direction. like I
What
think
constitutes as really wild? Go on, give me because this is another question that I ask, and
what conspiracy is wild.
what constitutes as wild, and then like give me an example of one of the messiest times that you have had that you found yourself in. Can be personal, can be work, or one of both.
I mean, I've just written about so many of these moments.
Have you? Oh, great. Well, if they're coming out in the book, then you can share a couple.
there's been so
Surely give me a
many.
little
I mean,
taster.
I think the messiest I've really been was like when I moved to LA. I didn't meet. I was working a lot here. I was doing well here. I felt like I was kind of making the best artists here, and I felt like I was blessed. But I did feel there was more, and then I got this video. I did a video of Ed Sheeran, of his first video, and second was bigger, third was bigger. Went to do another one in LA. That one won a VMA like while we were kind of there, and then I met Calvin, and then I got this Jennifer Lopez video, and like phoned my flat in London, was like, I'm not coming back. Like I left everything, like I left a car, a partner, a house, everything, and I
Oh
just
my
moved.
gosh.
And
Wow.
I think because I had left so much, I was also going through like grieving an old life and breaking up and leaving my friends behind. My dad was like getting older, all these things, but I was just going. I was like, I knew it was like now was the time.
Yeah.
So I was just drinking a lot, and I was drinking like would drink all kind of night, and then like the next day would be hazy and still drunk. So then about midday I would drink again, and the drugs were everywhere, and because I was like a bit hot at that time, it's like everything was available, everything was free. um so I think that the messiest memories were just this kind of like constant like round the clock, just being out of my mind really, but also at the same time functioning at an incredibly high level. It would be like I would be at a party with all the the people I was working with, and then I would drink all night and then wake up and I'd write 3 ideas and I'd book one and I'd be in a casting and I'd be shooting like a video a week at that point. So,
Gosh,
there was,
functioning.
yeah, there was one night in particular where I was out all night and I don't even know how many days I've been out. And then my door knocked at 6 a.m. I was living in a hotel for like 6 months. My door knocks, it's like mid party, and there's like my assistants there, like, we got to go to the location scout. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just
No.
like it's 6 a.m. And I'm like,
Oh my
and I was like,
goodness.
what? And I just get in the car, and this was like on a big, big video. So it's like, I think I was just in such kind of autopilot,
Yes.
and I had no home and no nothing, it was just like, yeah, it was just one. Yeah. So in one part of me, it was very messy. In the other part, I was like kind of just
It's
moving through it.
Yeah, and driving. And actually, you know what? Because I think there are certain industries, and the music industry certainly is one of them, that are synonymous with like being able to function amidst a very, very high level of mad, wild activity. And that sometimes that was indeed like driving more ideas. And I remember even being on video shoots just as the marketing rep from the label, and you could actually see it happening, that when some of these groups of people would get together and yeah, maybe a couple of them were high, a couple of them had just rolled in from somewhere else, that actually even then they were connecting and more ideas were sparking, and like literally something would be happening that was off script, and they'd be like, okay, we're going to improvise this and let's just ad lib this here, and actually it was making it even more and more exciting. So it's like there is, like we talked about though, that dangerous electric, like fiery side to being in a mess. But I think, as we've both experienced, you reach a limit. Like it's not
Yeah, it's
sustainable.
completely unsustainable. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the thing. And
I'm also sober now. Like took a long
congrats.
time to
Right.
realize, but
It's
yeah,
it's
few
a
years.
tough road. I mean, it's not, I think, especially English culture,
Yeah.
like I've definitely, I've been back in England, spending a lot more time here.
Hmm.
Um, and I see it here a lot.
Yeah.
It's like drink is just ingrained in our culture,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like,
Totally.
it's not kind of questioned, or yeah, it's difficult because I also feel I see the benefits it's had on my own life and my own health and my family and people around me, and like how, and it's my own life, and I kind of just want it for, my friends that are struggling or whoever it is. It's a
Yeah.
dangerous substance.
Yeah. Completely. You can't. It's just really it's baffling actually. And once you are sober, you realize what a shame, and it's kind of sad that so many people need it to enable themselves to converse with other people. Like,
I know it's
it does, because it just gives you that like layer of kind of calm. But I've certain, again, and each to their own. Like, I'm not here to preach or be snobby about it, and
no,
everybody.
and I actually do have to keep saying, and I just want to, I guess, say it because I have to say it every time, is like my, on off with alcohol has been, difficult in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. Like, but I did like 5 or 6 years with nothing. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can have one drink. And then sometimes I go through points where I'm like, I can just have one. And but then I noticed that like I then get these kind of bouts of depression and stuff. So, you know, yeah, I'm definitely not pure sober, and I struggle with it. But yeah, I know that when I'm not drinking completely, is when I'm at my best.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think there is a lot to be said for how because it's about how it chemically messes with our mind, and that is factual, that is scientifically proven, and but some people again can deal with it in different ways, and I think each to their own, and it's all relative, and we've just got to see what we can do. Is if you need to discipline yourself with it, then you do, and not everybody has to, which again I'm kind of in awe and jealous of.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, if you have a hot off switch,
Yeah.
like I applaud you, but
Yeah.
mine
Well,
goes.
I have had to go. I've had to cold turkey it. For me, there was no dipping in. I did actually. So and I had an 8 month period. So when was it? So end of 2022, I stopped completely and I didn't drink until no, hang on. It was Jan 22. I stopped drinking. So I didn't, and then I didn't drink till March 23 when I turned 40. So I had
Mm.
like just over a year. And then I was like, oh, I'm turning 40. I can have some drinks. And then I ended up on and off drinking for like 8 months until the end of that year. And I had a few like, because I had some lovely times and I went to some lovely gigs and I was like, oh, and then, but I just realized I was like, I really, it makes my mind feel messy. Like it gives me anxiety. I was waking up the next days, and I was like, actually, this is not worth it. So I stopped again Jan 24. And then I've managed to not drink again since then. So I'm going to, yeah.
I think that no matter how much it's me only personally, however much I drink, even if it's one drink, it like affects me for the next week, and it's too hard to operate. I think it's at a high level, whether it be emotionally or mentally or career wise, with that underlining anxiety and depression that it gives me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to do what you got to do for yourself.
Exactly.
So another thing that I really wanted to chat to you about, because I have seen how much work you've been doing in this space and love it, is alongside your video direction, your creative direction, your commercials, and all of the stuff that you're creating. You're also running this other channel, right, of creative expression and championing it alongside like creative expression for mental health. Um, and can you tell me a bit about that? So you've got this amazing platform, Nature Talks,
That's it. Yeah.
and and is it Amylite Machine? Tell me about Amylite Machine and what you're doing with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Nature Talks has been a journey. I've always I guess it was about 5 years ago or something, 6 years ago. Well, I guess even going back further, I made a film, my first film, and I've been making it for years, and it is kind of about youth culture and addiction and drugs and uh, mental health and stuff. And I've been, kind of making that film. And at the same time, I started to do a few I just started talking, I guess, about my own mental health, and I put on Instagram one day like I'm feeling a bit low, and I can't remember what I put, but I got a few DMs from just like a couple of young people saying like, "Wow, it's so amazing that you're talking about this," and like, you know, I needed to see this today or something like that, and it just gave me a feeling, I guess, like I hadn't really had before. Like I was at that point, I was making a lot of big videos, and they were getting kind of billions of views, and it just felt like the output that I was getting to achieve and was in through music and videos was so huge, and I was starting to think like, wow, if there was just an element of like a small piece of impact that could be within these views or the output, and like if I can have one kid say that to me off one Instagram post, and I can have a billion view music video, like what's the kind of how do we combine those things, like move culture in meaningful ways, and impactful ways. So that was kind of, I guess, like big thoughts I was having. And then I had a lot of amazing friends actually in LA, who one in particular, a woman called Darlene, who was big in the mental health space and was speaking to me about it and saying like, what are you trying to do? And I was like, look, I don't really know. I don't want to talk like I know anything about mental health or that I'm an expert. I don't want to be, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I was very like, I just felt like I wasn't my place to be talking about mental health. And she was kind of like, I told her about my father who had, schizophrenia and stuff like this. And all I told her a lot of my stories and getting sober and stuff, and she was like, that is your knowledge and your wisdom in the space, that you should just talk about that. So
Amazing, yeah.
anyway, started talking about it a bit more, just not much, but just talking about it, and did a few podcasts with her, and then had this idea around talking to other. I think at the same time I was getting more messages from young people saying like, oh, it's amazing to hear someone in your position, or like where, you know, in your space talking about it. And I was
Mm.
thinking about other creatives I know and other amazing people that I felt I would love to hear them talk about it. And we were having those conversations
Yeah.
anyway. And I was
Mm.
like, I wish other people could be involved in these conversations. So I had this idea. I was working with this non-profit, the Numbers Story, on like another kind of mental health doc piece.
Okay.
And they said, did I have any ideas I wanted to explore? And they had this budget this at the end of the year. And so anyway, yeah, they funded the first episode of Nature Talks, which was amazing. And I went and worked with one of their ambassadors, Nadine Burke Harris, who was the Surgeon General of California and specialized in kind of childhood trauma. And yeah, was just an amazing woman. And like we went and chatted with her in the nature and filmed it. And yeah, it was really special. And started speaking to more people, trying to kind of develop it more. And then ended up having an amazing conversation with Jordan Stevens, and just really just been kind of creating a place where we could have conversations, you know, in the nature. And then yeah, just recently it's been really kind of just taking shape, you know. And the
I love it. It's because you've just said it there that we help each other through mess, or even confront our own mess, or feel like more comfortable in our mess through having conversations. Like you are completely equipped and in a position where you can talk about mental health because you have lived experience, and sharing it, I think, in that way, like on that platform and in this creative way that you're doing, that's how you're helping like reach people and touch people and make an impact. Like that's definitely, it's happening right there.
cheers. No, it's been like amazing actually. Yeah, to feel the love from it, you know, and to also just be having having conversations with like other artists and other creatives about coming on, and also talking to, you know, brands that want to support it in meaningful ways. And yeah, it's been so exciting. And yeah, Amaline Machine is has been is my kind of like it's kind of my ad agency production company. It's a kind of hybrid of kind of creative and production. And you know, I do all of my kind of music videos and creative direction and all that stuff through that company. And yeah, it's just been really exciting to build, I guess, like kind of an agency and a production company that I really wanted us to create projects with impact, you know, cultural impact, you know, impact in all spaces really, I guess. So it's been, yeah, it feels like I'm in a point of growing things, you know, and they're all early stages. And yeah, I guess trying to create the next 10 years of my life and working.
Exactly, as we're all on these lifelong journeys.
Yeah.
So it feels like, what sort of things help you when your mind may be feeling a little bit on the disarrayed side? It feels like nature is one of them. So I'm taking that from from your content. Nature feels like one of them. What things help you now, apart from being sober and as you've like moved through life, and
Yeah.
what do you find helps you alleviate a messy mind, or just, or actually just, deal with it like on a day to day? What are some things that help you?
I think there's a lot of different things that I feel, you know, work for me for sure. Like I think working out is like a big thing. I love kind of cold water, you know. Um, I do like an ice bath, but I think like
Do
being out
you?
in the
I
cold
can't bring
lake,
myself to do it. I do cold showers at the end of my shower, like I flip it to freezing for
you gotta
maybe
do
20
the cold. The
seconds.
cold water to me is like I feel like the most happy and clear
Mm.
and pure mind I ever can be is after an intense sauna, and then in like incredibly cold water that's like surrounded by nature. Like that to me,
Dreamy. I wish I could
yeah,
live there all the time.
that ultimate, I think, just because the sauna puts your body, I feel, through quite a lot of like, you know, your heart's beating, it's quite intense. And then the cold water kind of just like shocks it's like the ultimate,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
thinking about anything but how amazing that cold water feels on me. Like there's no like, oh, that job or that thing or, but I think the other thing that I've really found incredibly helpful, and it's a very new thing to me, and some people call it journaling.
Hmm.
I'm part writing this book as well. So it's, but
Yeah, that's
ultimately,
got to be so cathartic, right? Writing the
yeah,
book,
but
getting it all out.
it really is. But I think ultimately just writing, like when I wake up and I just write down how I feel and ultimately what I want in life, it it really realigns me because it always comes back to like friends, family, love, connection, nature, meet that all the
The
things,
simple things.
yeah, that have nothing to do with like actually what stresses me out all day, which is like work and achieving this and building this and like not getting that wrong and like or just all the things that actually I worry about and that stress
Mm.
me out and that
Yeah,
actually pull me away from life because I get lost in my head.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it kind of realigns that. So then I go into my day being like something annoys me. I'm like, doesn't really matter though, does it? You know?
Yes. Yeah, 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 exactly. I think having kids does that as well. That's part of it. Like certainly since I became a parent, just that reminder, you look at your child and the way that their brain is operating in a much more simple, reasonable fashion than ours. And sometimes it's just those takeaways of like, oh yeah, actually, and she was very angry at that. Let it out, let the emotion, and then woof, let it flow. Like they don't then think about every angle of what it was that bothered them. And I've recently watched my daughter. It's been great. It's been a lesson for me in, she had a massive argument with a friend, and then they literally just got it all out and then just put it to bed and then and I was the one that was then putting sort of psychological layers on it, thinking, oh God, should I get them to go and talk it through? Like, do we need to have a bigger conversation as the parents about it? And actually it was incredible to watch. So I was like, no, they've let it go. It's like, have the big emotive explosion and then let it go. It's kind of very it's affirming when you watch children go through experiences, and I think we could all learn some lessons from them.
I love watching how present, you know, they are, you know, and think about like, I think as you get older, right, you just get more and more and more cluttered in your head. You got too many memories and traumas and worries and stresses, and you kind of just lose, I think, like the essence of life, right? You lose just being in the moment and just actually, you know, I search for being present and being in the moment, like the most, like, because I think that that is when we are truly happy and truly alive, you know, which I think is why the sauna and the cold, because it's just, I'm not, you know, when you start thinking about everything else and the worries of yesterday or tomorrow and all these other
Mm,
things that mean nothing ultimately,
yeah.
yeah, I think that the being present, which ultimately the kids just are all,
Yeah, they are. They're just in the moment. They're just in the moment. We've got so
like, look
many.
at that leaf. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, look at that leaf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just look at the leaf, look at the sky. Let's just bring it back to basics. If only if it, but we just need to make it more simple.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Try to.
that's why the writing for me anyway helps so much in the morning because when I wake up in the morning, my head is like a fucking like I do have pretty bad ADD as well, and I'm
Mm,
pretty yeah, I'm thinking about feel like I sometimes joke with my partner that like when I'm going on a lot up here and
mm.
we're in somewhere like busy, like a city sit thing, and the kids are screaming, and like there's five like layers of sound in my
Yeah,
head,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
But I'm so glad. It's so reassuring and comforting for me to hear. Like, I'm sorry that you also go through it, but that genuinely, I have the same. I had it this morning. I woke up. I was actually sleeping on a sofa bed in my daughter's room because she'd needed the comfort of me there in the night. And I woke up and I looked over at the clock and it was 5:45, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed yet. And then the layers of thought that were just going round and around, and and I was like, oh my, and I had to, I just had to get up in the end. I was like, right, get up, go have a shower, splash yourself, like because yeah, and going in and out of London, the busyness, yes, I feel you.
That's what I now what I do, because I used to kind of I'm the same. I wake up, I even dream obsessively. I have loop dreams. I wake up like, and now what I do is I just walk straight to the chair, like in my pajamas. It's like 6 a.m. It's quiet. I open the window and I just like write, and it does kind of clear me out.
Yeah, that's great. It's good. Write it out. And I think again, working out as well. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think this is a instilled within us? Do you think it comes from, is it genetic sometimes, this mess of the mind? I question myself. I don't know completely some of my own like lineage. I always wonder, and I talk to my therapist about it loads. And we've mentioned a bit about like childhood and traumas in childhood. Do you think? Because I'm like, is everybody like this? Does everybody have this mess in their mind? Does it come from? What do you think?
I mean, it's an interesting discussion. I can't remember what the fact the stat was, but I actually can't wrap my head around believing it. But something like 80% of people don't like think about themselves in. I can't remember what the fact was, like. The 80% of people are just in flow state. They are just in like.
Really?
I
They're
did,
not overthinking
I did
everything.
hear. I can't remember what the stat was, but I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it that not everyone is just not like mad in their head, but so wild, But I think a lot about what happened to like my mum and my dad, and what happened to my mum and dad's like mum and dad, and
Yeah.
my mum and dad. Because yeah, it's like all my issues I know kind of came from them. I'm not blaming them, but like what I
No.
saw from them, what
Yes.
they learned and what they saw was from their parents and what their parents. So
Yeah, it's intergenerational, and intergenerational trauma is definitely like a legitimate thing. Not to get too deep and too heavy, but I've certainly my own history. My mum, who passed away when I was young, she was Polish, and I know that her mum lived through two concentration camps. And I don't know. I want to actually know the detail of the story. But just thinking of that, and my mum's friends anecdotally always say to me, oh God, your mum was such a worrier. She was such a worrier, Liv, like always worrying. And I was like, well, there we go. Like that's definitely kind of, yeah.
it really passes down. And someone said to me recently, which was so powerful. They said like all the work that you're doing healing means you're going to heal all these generations to come. And I was like,
Beautiful.
fucking hell. Like even saying it
Mm.
again, it's like, because yeah, like there's going to be all this family of ours that don't even know who we are. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually don't know anything like about my dad's mum's parents, like
Hmm.
nothing, like, which is so crazy to think. So
Yeah.
yeah, fuck knows. When I start thinking about it like that, it's the same way as I think about when I think about space. I just
God,
I
no,
can't
exactly. It's too much. Yeah, there's
too
too many layers, too many layers, too many levels. Can you function in a physically messy state? How does that impact you? I'm always intrigued as to whether, like, do you have to have a lot of organization around you? Can you deal with physical mess if there's loads of things around you?
It's funny. I was thinking about that, Arena, when you kind of contacted me and a new concept of the show. Because I don't want to I don't like throwing around loads of different terms, but I do have pretty bad OCD, like to the point where like I know if like something's touched my clothes. I know like when I last washed my hands. I know like I shower like 2, 3 times a day. Like my OCD about my own cleanliness is pretty out of control and gets insanely bad when I'm stressed, and less so when I'm not stressed. So I think in terms of like my own being, I'm very like structured, like in terms of I need kind of routine um and yeah, so I guess around me outwardly I am quite like clean and together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In my head, it's like a whole different
Mm.
I spend quite a lot of time trying to organize my thoughts. I write a lot of lists, I write a lot of notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know
And actually, I think it is like that combination of having, and I've listened to stuff again around this. There's an amazing like neuroscientist, but she works a lot in the spiritual realm as well, called Dr. Tara Swart, and she wrote this book called The Source, like all about how our brain is. We should consider that as the source, and she talks about the genuine science behind having an organized exterior so that it enables your mind and your brain and everything to be able to organize things for you. It does help. Like it has a real effect on you if you are able to be orderly around you. It helps your brain compute and put order together for you. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I do.
yeah, I was reading something saying about like, because I was exploring why my OCD gets so much worse when I'm like really stressed, and it was like as we lose control ultimately of like our lives, like because I get a lot when I'm on shoots or things like that. So when you're like losing control of your world and your life, like the OCD is kind of a way of gaining control, like in your own way, because you can control those things, but you can't control. Like I certainly can't control, a lot of the things that happen in my work, especially.
Yeah, can't control anybody else, annoyingly, apart from ourselves.
Yeah.
But it does feel, though, that as the director, you should have control. You've got the control of the vision, but then actually, that must be hard to have everyone else is executing it for you on your behalf, and you don't have control of them.
No, you actually don't. You actually have zero control. Like I realized that like I've never actually been really happy with anything I've ever made because
Stop it.
normally in here it looks red
Different.
and then
Oh,
it's blue because it had to be blue because like it just had
the
to be.
label said so.
Yeah, the label said so, or the budget didn't go, or like the sun
Mm.
set at the wrong time. I mean, I think with directing anyway, I really I didn't say this. I think someone another director said this, but it is just all about compromise. Really, directing. It's just about how do you get some version of what you think, and that's out of no one's fault. It's just solely like there's 1,000 things that need to happen to make that thing how you thought it was, and those 1,000 things are never going to all go right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
999 of them will go wrong. So
yeah.
in the end, you're like, wow, okay, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, great that you get to the point though where you can tolerate that and go, was it different with your film with snorkeling? Because that was yours and it wasn't like on
No,
behalf of an artist?
not at all. No, we made so little money that like the script where it started and the film that it was meant to be is like nothing like what it was, because in the end so much changed, and you're kind of, I always say with these ideas, it's like a tornado that you're kind of trying to hold on to and move, but like sometimes they're just too big and you're trying to like, so I think with the film, I've actually found in the last, few months, maybe a kind of peace with it, which like it is what it was meant to be. Um, even though I had visions for it to be something else, like this is what it was meant to be. And it's taken ages for it to come out, and we finished it so many times, and there's been so many, but I've really come to terms with the fact that like, and maybe I feel like that a bit across the board now, that now I don't feel less so much like, oh, that's not what it was meant to be, and like it was not the vision. And more so like that's like what it's meant to be,
Yeah, 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 definitely. That's good. Acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance is key. Do you find, or have you, like, who are people that you have collaborated with on projects, and do you find like your mind attracts a similar sort of mind? Like, is it that kind of messy, high energy, high octane, super amazing, loads of ideas, creative people attract a similar, or do you like collaborating with someone that's a bit more slower paced and has a bit more of a controlled or like refined, I guess, slower mind? Or how does it? Who have you collaborated with?
Yeah, it's funny actually because I've definitely realized that in terms of like my team, for instance, like production and stuff, like I have been drawn to a slightly more manic or like more, messy ultimately kind of team. I think because I maybe find comfort in that, like I think that like I understand those
Those
people.
energies
Yeah.
appreciate each other. I know. I
Yeah.
think sometimes you do, like, you're drawn to people of that similar brain because you're like, oh, you understand me. It's okay. Thank God.
Exactly. I don't know if it's necessarily the best for the project, and that's
Mm.
what maybe I'm realizing now that I actually feel like I yearn a much more structured team,
Mhm.
because then I can feel, yeah, I feel like maybe before I was so insecure and about my own messiness and my, and the old imposter syndrome and all these things that maybe like if the whole thing was messy, it was a little easier. And maybe if someone's really together and much more on it than me and better than me in a lot of things, I would feel, insecure or jeopardized in some way. So like, I think accepting who I am and knowing that having better people around me at certain things and like it is important.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
But
then I
also,
think,
it's so mad to me that you even, you self-deprecate yourself in that way, or have, because your output has always been of such an amazing, like, prestigious caliber that, but to you, you
oh,
you
it doesn't
thought,
feel like that at all. No, I mean,
yeah,
to me, it feels like nothing's ever been good
yeah,
enough or as good as anything else out there. I'm always seeing things being like, I wish I could make that, And then sometimes I have to think about like, sometimes I really like the things I make, and then you're with them for so long.
yeah, yeah,
We have the same with music. I'm actually been working on this music project with a writer friend of mine. We've kind of got this like virtual band that
Is
we do.
that, yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen that. Tell me about that. Was it called Rage?
Rave 250. Yeah,
Rave 250, so not Rage.
yeah. No, it's my like Rage too. It's kind of like a modern day gorillas, basically, kind of virtual,
Mm,
a virtual band.
nice.
And I was just talking about it on that project because it's like you listen to the music so much, you kind of get desensitized to it. And I heard something similar about like a comedian say that like the problem with like comedy movies is once you've seen the joke, it's not funny anymore.
Uh-huh, yeah, because
But
you know
yeah, because you know the punchline, you've seen it a million times. So I went on a tangent, but yeah, that's why sometimes I think it's hard to stay connected with the work. But I think just on your question about creatives and talent that I like working with, I, I definitely find myself gravitating to people that really want to kind of push the boundaries, and be brave. And yeah, I think that like yeah, that to me has felt really important, recently.
who's out there that you would also herald as being a hot, amazing, creative mess? Like, who do you, because you are one, and who, like, because there are, so many film directors. Oh my gosh, like, there are tons, whether it's like Quentin Tarantino or just like,
Yeah.
I think when you look, like we were saying right at the beginning of this chat, there's just so many people that are wild, disarrayed. The mind has just been an incredible, beautiful, hot mess.
Someone who I love at the moment is Charlie
Oh
XCX.
my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
think like, well, she's been around, she's been making and creating for a long time in the
Mm.
industry, right? And she's like, and she kind of, I can feel has got to that point where she's like, yeah, fuck it. Fuck you all. I'm just going to make whatever the fuck I want. And I don't care. And I'm
Yeah.
going to fucking like have an album cover that's just the name. And I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
fucking like,
totally.
and I'm going to like not have a band on stage. Like she just feels like she's doing whatever the fuck she wants in
Mm.
whatever way she wants, which
Yeah.
ultimately I think is not perfect, right? Like you
Yes.
can't make the perfect album cover and have the perfect show and like do
Yeah.
everything perfect. Like,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
and I think she's like embraced that,
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking just be who I am, and like
Yeah.
that's fucking it.
Like, thank God that that is happening. Again, this is the purpose, hopefully, of like the concept of these whole conversations is like, yeah, embrace imperfection, because we try so hard to deliver it for so long. And I was definitely, yeah, thinking back to my role as part of that machine at record labels, just desperately striving for perfection on every level, whether it's the album cover and the retouching that's necessary, or like, but I do think now within society, we're hopefully trying to come around to a place where we can show that we can thrive with accepting the imperfections and allowing them. But then there's just it's the constant battle of like, because there's also just the whole hypocrisy of social media and like, okay, let's expose our imperfections, but do it in a really filtered way on Instagram. Yeah.
No,
But
and I struggle a lot with social media in a lot of senses, because I think one thing I've found with social media which is interesting is like there is only really if it's like a kind of 2D, I know it's video, but like there's only an element of, you can only show a certain amount of yourself anyway on there, right? So you are presenting what you think you want to present. It's very hard to show the whole of someone, even if you wanted to. So it's like, it's almost like kind of built for the front shop window, and you decide, what am I putting in that shop window?
So it's taking it for what it is. And I think there at least people are now doing that. People are taking it, because I think maybe for too long there was just a whole sort of channel of thought that Instagram was people reflecting their lives realistically, and now everybody is admitting that it is a curation zone, and so let's just take that for what it is and use it appropriately in that way, because there are so many benefits to it as well, like the way that you can help make a living. You can make a living on
Make a
Instagram.
talk show about chatting in the nature, and build a following and a community. I feel so connected to these people
No,
that,
you can, and you're
yeah,
spreading the word. You are actually doing so much like good for others by spreading spreading strong content,
good
spreading
content,
meaningful content.
little place to breathe. I always think as well, as much as TikTok has its own kind of negative connotations, I think that TikTok's been also amazingly powerful. Like it's a very raw. People are being very raw on there, right? And like it is, and I think for music, I mean, it's completely redefined the
Yeah,
music industry.
it
Like,
has.
so, yeah,
It's given people back the power in their own hands, right? So
yeah.
actually, it is a bit of an fu record labels, because
There is artists that genuinely have just filmed themselves in their bedroom and they are now massive. Like that's
yeah,
the reality of it, which you never had back when we started, right? Like you
yeah,
had to come and get the big video, you had to get you had to get all of that. You had to be
yeah.
on radio, Like,
Yeah, exactly. And you
that's
had to forfeit and sacrifice some of your own being, really, to enable success, as it were. So no, I think it's good. It's powerful that they've been able to reclaim themselves, for sure. But on the music note, I'm gonna wrap up with the way that sort of come to the end of these chats, which is to bring it back round to music and talk about what music you feel has been representative of mess in your life, either has got you through a messy period or that you just think sounds like mess. Have you got a tune or two?
I got a couple. I guess maybe conceptually slightly different. One is Aphex Twin.
Yes, yes.
I just feel that like, but this is partly my own, but also visually, I think that like what they did in their videos and the music was so like just chaotic. I just didn't
Yeah.
even know what it was. It was so it was so insane and still
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
it was always visually and musically quite impactful to me.
yeah, amazing. That's so stimulating, like incredibly.
And then, I think that like it was so tragic in the end, but Amy Winehouse's Back to Black album, I think, is just fucking just unbelievably amazing. And I just feel she just laid it all on the table, she just like, I worked with her early on the first album, like as a runner. I met her as a runner, and then on the Back to Black, I was the AD on like all of the videos. So I was very close to it. And, you know, I think similar to, you know, even what happened with Charlie, like I saw Amy like trying to do the first one and it was kind of jazzy and then and it was one thing and then it was like suddenly she made this new album and it was just like fucking hell, like it felt like she was just like, fuck you, I'm gonna just lay it down. And like I just think that kind of creative output where it's like I don't give a fuck what any of you think and like this is who I am and how I feel and like
Yeah,
to
it
me
is the most like
love.
heartbreaking example of making the utmost of the mess that she was in. Like,
Yeah,
because creatively, it's just one of the most incredible pieces of music and art and all the visuals and everything. And she just represented herself as she was, like fully exposed, really. And it is heartbreaking, but thank you her for doing it.
yeah, it was beautiful.
Thank you, Emil. Man, so much amazing stuff to talk about. And I really, honestly, you know, I think everything you have said, I just still think that you are an inspirational. Yeah, you are a creative inspiration, and I think the harnessing of your wild mind and the ideas that you have put out there and realized, and what you're doing now with Nature Talks and all your projects are awesome.
Thank you. Well, listen, congrats to you. You know, I mean, I think that starting these things is tough, you know, and keeping them going is tough. And, you know, it's like someone said to me, no one's asking for this stuff, right? No one's asking for you to make this podcast. No,
No,
you know,
definitely not.
it's like so it's all on you. You know, it's yeah, it's all your passion and it's your drive. And if you weren't to do it tomorrow, it wouldn't be here. But you are doing it. So congrats.
Well, I appreciate you having the conversation with me.
Anytime.
Love it. Nice one. Thanks so much, Emil. See you
Cheers.
later.
Take care. Have a good day.
I am so grateful to you for tuning in and allowing some more mess to be uncovered with me. The Mess We're In is edited by David Strutt, music by Michelle Cade, who you can find on Spotify as Mind Like Water, and I am Liv Nunn. If you enjoyed this episode, it would make such a difference if you can hit follow or subscribe and share in any way. It really helps get this conversation flowing in a less messy manner. If you want to know how to connect with me, all the details are in the show notes. I'll be back very soon to spotlight and honour more of our messy selves. Be open, be kind, be messy.